The police told me not to look outside. And the way he said it wasn't casual or routine. It wasn't the kind of warning you brush off and laugh about later. His voice was tight, controlled, like he was holding something back. And before I could even ask what was going on, he repeated it slower this time, like he needed it to stick. Sir, whatever you hear, whatever you think you see, do not go near the windows. I remember standing there in my living room, phone pressed against my ear, staring at the dark glass just a few feet away, feeling this weird mix of confusion and irritation. Because up until that moment my night had been completely normal. I was just killing time watching some late night reruns, half paying attention, half scrolling on my phone, not expecting anything more intense than deciding what to eat before going to bed. And then that sound happened outside, sharp and metallic, like something hitting my mailbox hard enough to echo down the street. At first I thought it was just someone messing around, maybe some drunk guy or teenagers being idiots. But then it happened again. Louder, more aggressive, and that's when I got up to check. Already annoyed, already rehearsing what I'd say if I caught someone out there, but the second I got close to the door, I heard footsteps on my lawn. Not on the sidewalk, not passing by, but right there, slow and uneven, like whoever it was didn't walk right, like they were dragging one foot slightly behind the other. And something about that instantly killed my confidence. I stopped mid-step, just standing there, listening, trying to make sense of it, when the knocking started. Not on the door like a normal person would, but on the window beside it, 3 slow taps that felt way too deliberate to be random. I didn't want to look, and I don't mean I was scared in a normal way. It was more like this heavy feeling settled in my chest telling me that whatever was out there didn't want to be seen directly. Like it preferred the glass between us, like it needed that reflection, and even thinking that sounds stupid now, but in that moment it felt real enough to make me hesitate. Still, curiosity got the better of me, and I turned my head just enough to glance at the window, expecting to see someone standing there. Maybe a face pressed against the glass. But there was nothing. Just my own reflection staring back at me in the dark. And for a second I actually felt relieved, like maybe I'd imagined the whole thing. Until I noticed something that didn't sit right. My reflection didn't match me perfectly, not in an obvious way. Nothing dramatic, just a slight delay. Like when you're on a bad video call and the feed lags behind your movement by half a second. And I remember frowning, leaning a little closer to the glass to check if it was just my eyes playing tricks on me. And that's when my phone rang. The sudden noise made me flinch, and when I looked down and saw an unknown number, something in my gut told me to answer it immediately, like whatever was happening outside was somehow connected. And sure enough, the moment I picked up, the voice on the other end introduced himself as a police dispatcher. His tone calm but tense, and he went straight to the point, telling me to lock my doors and stay away from the windows. And I asked him what was going on, trying to keep my voice steady, but he didn't give me a clear answer. Just said there was someone in the area and officers were on the way. I pressed him harder, asking what the person looked like. And there was this pause, long enough to make my stomach drop, before he finally said, "We're not entirely sure." And that didn't make any sense to me, because how do you not know what someone looks like unless there's something wrong with them? While I was still processing that, the tapping came again, louder this time, and without thinking I glanced back at the window, and that's when everything shifted from strange to terrifying, because my reflection was no longer just slightly off, it was wrong in a way I can't fully explain. I moved my head and it didn't follow immediately, and when it did, the movement was exaggerated, like it was trying too hard to copy me, and then, before I even realized what I was seeing, it smiled. Not me. It smiled first, slow and wide and completely out of place, and I felt this cold rush go through my entire body, like my brain finally caught up and understood that whatever I was looking at wasn't me. I stumbled back, almost dropping my phone, and the dispatcher was asking me what was happening, his voice louder now, more urgent, but I couldn't answer because something moved behind the reflection, something tall enough that it didn't fully fit in the frame of the window, and it leaned in slowly until its face was right next to mine, except it wasn't a real face, not in the way a human face is. It had the structure, the eyes, the mouth, but everything was slightly off, like it had been put together from memory instead of reality, and it was smiling the same unnatural smile as the reflection. When it spoke, it used my voice perfectly, the exact tone, the exact pitch, like a recording being played back. "Hello," it said, and hearing that broke whatever control I had left. I yelled, stumbling backward into the living room, knocking over a chair as I went, while the thing outside started hitting the window harder. The sound echoing through the house as it repeated the same words over and over. Open the door, each time more confident, more commanding, like it was getting better at being me the longer it listened. The dispatcher was still on the line, telling me officers were close, telling me to stay calm, but then the banging stopped abruptly, and for a second I thought it might be over, until I heard a different sound coming from the side of the house, the unmistakable slide of a window being forced open, and that's when the fear hit me in a completely different way, because whatever was out there wasn't just trying to scare me anymore, it was coming inside. I grabbed the first thing I could find, a kitchen knife that suddenly felt useless in my shaking hands, and backed away toward the corner of the room as I listened to it move through my house, slow, deliberate footsteps on the tile floor, the sound of something brushing against the walls as if it wasn't used to navigating a space like that. And then it spoke again, closer now, right at the entrance to the living room, using my voice but slightly clearer than before, like it was improving. "Hello," it said, and I felt this overwhelming sense that it wasn't just copying me anymore, it was becoming me. When it finally stepped into view, I couldn't process it fully, my brain refused to hold on to the details, but I remember enough to know it wasn't stable, its shape shifting slightly as if it couldn't decide what it was supposed to look like, except for the face, which stayed locked in that twisted version of mine, staring at me with this intense curiosity, like I was the strange one. It tilted its head and spoke slowly, carefully forming the words, "Which one is real?" And I swear in that moment I didn't have an answer. Before anything else could happen, red and blue lights flashed through the windows, cutting through the darkness, and the thing froze, its head snapping toward the sound before turning back to me, and for the first time its expression changed, the smile dropping just slightly, replaced by something that looked like irritation, like it had been interrupted. And then it moved, faster than anything I've ever seen, darting back the way it came and disappearing out of the broken window just as the police burst through the front door. They searched the area for hours, but there was nothing, no footprints, no sign of anyone being there at all, and when I tried to explain what I saw, most of them looked at me like I was in shock or making things up, except for the dispatcher, who later pulled me aside and told me quietly that I wasn't the only one who called that night, that there were other houses, other people reporting the same thing, something outside using their voices, learning them. I moved out a few days later and tried to forget about it, telling myself it was some kind of shared panic or something I didn't understand, but deep down I knew that wasn't true, and I didn't feel safe again until weeks passed without anything happening. Then one night, in my new place miles away from that house, I woke up to a sound that instantly brought everything back, 3 slow taps on my bedroom window, and I didn't move, didn't even breathe because I already knew what was outside and I knew better than to look this time. I just lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, trying to convince myself it would go away if I ignored it, until I heard it whisper softly through the glass, using my voice perfectly like it had finally gotten it right, "Open the door." And I didn't move, didn't even breathe because I already knew what was outside, and I knew better than to look this time. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, trying to pretend none of it was real, trying to convince myself that if I ignored it, it would go away like a bad dream, but the tapping didn't stop. It stayed slow and patient like it had all the time in the world, like it knew I wasn't going anywhere, and after a few seconds the whisper came again, clearer this time, closer to the glass. "Open the door," using my voice perfectly, no distortion now, no mistakes, just me, exactly me, and that was the part that broke something inside my head because it meant whatever that thing was, it had learned enough. I squeezed my eyes shut, pulling the blanket over my head like a kid even though I knew how stupid that was, but I didn't care, I just needed some kind of barrier between me and it, even if it was fake, and for a moment everything went quiet. Completely silent. No tapping. No voice. Nothing. And that silence was worse than anything before because it felt like it was waiting. Then my phone buzzed on the nightstand beside me, and I froze because I already had a feeling I knew what I'd see, but I forced myself to look anyway, slowly reaching out and turning the screen toward me, and the second it lit up my stomach dropped. Unknown number. Same as before. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped it, but I answered anyway, putting it to my ear without saying anything, and for a few seconds there was just static on the line, faint, uneven breathing underneath it, and then, "Hello." The voice on the phone was mine. Not outside. Not through the window. Inside the call. Perfect. Come. Like nothing was wrong. I couldn't speak, couldn't even react, I just sat there frozen as it continued, "Why aren't you looking at me?" And that's when I heard something shift in my room, not outside anymore, not at the window, but inside, somewhere behind me, soft, slow movement across the floor like something adjusting its weight. My entire body locked up. Because I knew one thing for sure. I hadn't opened the door. I hadn't opened the window. And there was nowhere else it could have come from. The voice on the phone got quieter, almost amused. "You didn't listen?" And at the exact same moment, right next to my ear, inches away in the darkness behind me, something whispered the same words in perfect sync. "You didn't listen." I don't remember moving. I don't remember getting out of that bed. The next thing I clearly remember is being outside, standing barefoot on the street in front of my house, police lights flashing again, neighbors watching from their windows, and 2 officers holding onto me like I was going to collapse. They kept asking me what happened, how I got outside, why my front door was wide open, but I couldn't answer them because I didn't know. I never remembered opening it. I never remembered walking out. And when I finally looked back at the house, at my bedroom window, I saw someone standing there. Still, watching. It looked exactly like me. Same height. Same face. Same expression. And then, it smiled. Not wide. Not exaggerated. Just a small, normal smile, like it belonged there. One of the officers followed my gaze and asked me what I was looking at, but when I blinked and looked again, it was gone. They searched the house again that night. Same result. Nothing. No one. No signs of entry. No explanation. But that wasn't the part that stayed with me. What stayed with me was what happened the next morning. Because when I woke up in the hospital, they handed me my phone, said I'd been holding onto it when they found me outside, and the screen was still on. Still recording. A voice memo I never started. I stared at it for a long time before pressing play, already feeling that same dread creeping back into my chest, and at first there was nothing but silence, just a few seconds of empty audio, until I heard movement, footsteps, slow, dragging, inside my room, followed by my own voice, clear as day, coming from somewhere near the phone. "It's okay, he's not looking anymore." And then another voice, identical, replying from farther away, "Do I look right now?" And the first one answered, "Almost."